vlog.
Hey everyone, my name is Prince. Welcome to this week's writing vlog. It's my very first. I have had a difficult week. I'm filming this at the very end of it. And just keep that in mind when you're watching this vlog. If you are having a difficult creative time, please take care of yourself. Stay tuned. Today, I'm at an Airbnb waiting to hang out with my friend. I think I have about another hour until he gets here, maybe less. I'm gonna try and pound out at least 500 words. Right now in this book, I am 70,000 words in. I've written way too much for part 1. I'm in part 2 now, and I kind of need to get deeper into the new characters that the main character is meeting. And so the scene I really need to write next is kind of sort of giving more depth to a sort of more minor character at the place where the main character is. So let's get into it. Writing a scene where the main character is going to school in the jail that he's in, and I need to kind of bring up a conflict that's racial between the teacher and his friend. So the main character kind of steps in, and it kind of, basically I want to show that Matthew is the kind of character that will stand up for people, even if he doesn't always do it in the best way, or if it's going to lead to consequences for him, which kind of aligns him with the love interest that I'm trying to set up through this part of the book, which is part 2. Why having a consistent writing schedule is so important for me. So I typically am a morning person. I prefer to wake up, eat food really quick, and then just sit down at the laptop as soon as possible, because I think that's when at least my brain is most creative. And typically when I wait until the evening, that's when I feel like, oh, I want to relax, I want to do whatever I want. But the way the pandemic has kind of changed that, and I think going to this residency in Florida, is that I had unlimited time alone, and I just really could write whenever. And so I'm glad today that it's 21 p.m. It's March 4th. And I'm really glad that I've just at least sat down to write, because even in just the little writing sprint that I did, which I think was maybe a half an hour, I was able to write 448 words, and Scrivener says that if I want to finish this manuscript by the end of April, then I need to write 986 words a day. So already in just that time, I was able to get through half of my daily word count. And as someone that got into writing professionally, I started freelance writing. So I would pitch something, I would get it accepted, and then I have to write it by a deadline. And I think that taught me, I don't know how to write when you don't want to, but I think it also made fiction quite a bit easier to come back to, because instead of having to research and use sources and cite, I'm literally just using my own brain. And yeah, there's things you gotta research in fiction, but not all the time. Get back into it, and I'll give you an update the next time I write. Right now, we are 448 out of our 986 daily word count goal, and the manuscript is at 69,034. words. Oh, that number, it's just too large. I've written too much, but I love it. I love it. It's Friday, March 12th. It's about 9 a.m. I typically find that I write better in the mornings. I love to wake up before 8 a.m. if I can. My current project right now that I'm mainly working on is a young adult novel set in the 1980s. It's about a black boy, it's about a black boy dealing with the grief of his grandmother's death and his brother's death. And right now I'm in part 2, and I'm kind of establishing his life in jail. But right now, so some of the tools that I use Scrivener pretty regularly. That's what I write on when I write first drafts. I really like how Scrivener gives you the opportunity to set session targets, project targets. It lets you track really easily what you've written per day, which I think is really helpful for me, because I really like to have a clear sense of progress. But for outlining and other stuff, I guess I'll just kind of show you. I'll be right back. As for outlining, I keep it pretty simple. So I usually just kind of outline as much as I can on, can you even see that? Ah, you can't even see that. Can you see that? So I pretty much try to outline whatever I can on pieces of paper. So this page is Act 2. I'm using some of the Save the Cat method to kind of mark down the different plot points where they are. I overwrote in part 1. I wrote 30,000 words more than I needed to. So even though I'm not even to the midway point, I'm at about 76,000 words. So right now I'm just kind of trying to do my due diligence with kind of tracking what each kind of scene or scene area should be word count wise, but not be holding myself to that. And then I also just have this notebook that I bought at Target. I've heard of story Bibles. I've heard those are usually good for series, but I just have this where I kind of have marked down different parts, things that I want to change. I have notes for draft 2. I write down themes and motifs. I have a page for each character where I kind of break down different things about their life and their backstory. And then back here, sort of near the second half of the notebook, I do a lot more just like breaking down bullet by bullet what needs to happen in each chapter. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Today, I woke up early. I've just been kind of wasting some time listening to some music to kind of get into the mood. And I want to try to write at least 1,000 words today, just because over the last few days, I've kind of been a little bit off. There's been 1 or 2 days over the past 4 or 5 days where I haven't written, which is fine. I'm allowing myself to kind of do that when I need to. But I also know it's much harder to get back into it for me when I haven't written in a few days. So today, I wrote yesterday, I wrote about 300 or 400 words. That's kind of like the bare minimum of what I try to write when I'm not really into it. But today, I'm kind of trying to tackle the build up to the kind of midpoint, kind of try to set up some of the conflicts and tension, and then kind of reach the midpoint climatic scene. And so I'm hoping today I can write at least 800 or 900 words and have a really clear point of how to kind of get through the midpoint to the end of part 2, which is what I need to write to over the next week. But some other things I'm kind of managing right now. I have a newsletter called Millennial Writer Life that I post in 1 or 2 times a month. On YouTube, I try to put a video up at least about twice a month, and I've been backlogging more videos lately. Yesterday I spent pretty much all day editing a video that I've already been able to upload, and I'm figuring out when I want to schedule. We're gonna get to writing, and I hope you're writing too. All right, hello. It is still the same day. I decided to come to a park near my house because in Ohio, the weather's been really bad, and over the past few days, it's warmed up. I've been able to open up my windows, air at my house, but I do need time away from home. So this is a park near my house that I like to come to. It's good to just sit down, read, relax, lay on a blanket, and also think about my plot. So for this section, I want to talk about some basics about outlining for a novel. So what helps me with outlining is separating my book into parts. I have a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And then for each of those parts, I kind of break down the very just sort of grand plot points. And so in part 1, I know I need to establish the main character's job, a funeral that he needs to go to. I need to establish characters. There's a few events where a lot of characters converge and conflict is kind of revealed. And then there's a climax in part 1, and kind of similar for part 2. And since my book, in each part, the character is in a new environment, that means I have to establish new characters, new settings, and so I need to leave some breathing room for that. But just like a basic plot tip is that if you're kind of confused about how to tackle the whole book, think about the book in parts, think about the book in acts. A really good book that I'd recommend is Save the Cat Writes a Novel. Breaking down your novel into parts is definitely one way that you can help yourself in the long run when you're writing. It is Saturday, March 13th, 11:30 a.m. I'm hungover, but I took an ibuprofen. In about 30 minutes, I'm going to do a check-in call with my agent. This is kind of our first real check-in that hasn't been over text message since submissions has started. And as far as I know right now, the book, the submission letter went out to 13 publishing houses. 7 publishing houses requested to read the full manuscript. And as far as I understand, I don't think any have said no, but maybe some have. I think I don't feel I feel nervous, but I don't feel like I'm freaking out. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think things I want to talk about with my agent are questions I should have for editors who might be interested, just to kind of shush out whether or not they really respect the subject matter, whether or not they're going to fight for my book in the ways that I want it to be fought for. And also just talking really plainly about an offer, what my kind of ideal or hopeful advance number is, because I think that's something really, really important to establish at this point in the process, or even sooner. Talking about everything else, I guess. I don't know. I'll check in with you after. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Just sound like, I don't know, it sounded like they just didn't fall in love with it, which is fine. And part of me also just feels like some of those people just sounded like they knew they weren't the right person for it, which to me sounds like, I don't know, it, like, if I think of it that way, I'm like, okay, like, I can appreciate that, I guess. Wait, but I don't want to wait. But it's like, waiting is what makes it worth it. So I might as well just fucking be patient. Right. Oh my god. What if I die and this book never gets published? So I've been sitting here kind of trying to process why I feel like I'm kind of in shock. I mean, I think it is a lot naturally to hear rejection when you've worked so hard on something. So I think that's a part of it. I think the other part of it is like the lack of control. Like, I can only control the work that I've done, which I'm so proud of. And I know the right person will love it. And so the people that have said no, it's like, these weren't the right people. But I think the other side of it is just, it's kind of scary that I've made it this far. Like, I've literally made it this far. I wrote numerous books in high school. I wrote this book. I got an agent off of it. I got into like 5 or 6 writing residencies. I mean, it took me to France, and I know I did that shit. I know I wrote that shit. I know I wrote it. And so it's just also kind of scary to be so close to your dream and to kind of like feel it, like, I don't know. It's like I've worked so hard at it, and this was something that was just in my head for so long, and now I've brought it into the world, and now I have an agent who will fight for it for me. I don't know, and maybe that's why it feels scarier in a way, because I think until now, I didn't really fully have to consider the realities of like whether or not someone from, I don't know, the other objective thing is a memoir is, according to my agent, one of the hardest genres to sell. Wow, this light is good right now. Yeah. All right, hello YouTube. It is Sunday, March 14th, and this is the next part of my writing vlog. Yesterday was not easy. I think I like doing these vlogs because it really just shows how different things can be day to day, week to week. I did my check-in call with my agent yesterday, and it was just kind of the first real time in the submissions process where I faced the realities of being a young Black author, kind of being up against all these gatekeepers. And I think a lot of the responses just show that when you're on submissions, it's important to be patient. This process can take weeks, months. It's important to be working on the next thing, and it's also important to just know that some of the no's are a blessing in disguise, because you don't want someone who isn't passionate about your book to be working on editing it. But it's still hard. I mean, I'm so close to my dream that every kind of hiccup in the road just forces me to kind of question everything. So I really just spent the rest of yesterday doing self-care. I went and got tacos, I drank, I watched some good movies with my roommates, and I tried to get a good amount of sleep. And I think yesterday I also just like talked to a few trusted friends to kind of just gain some perspective and Also just know that not many people finish books, not many people polish their books, not many people get agents. And so I also feel like, in a weird way, a lot of this stuff getting to this point has just been sort of things coming to me, even though I have worked hard. And this is kind of the first point where, I don't know, you have roadblocks and it's so hard to gauge what's happening in the industry and why people are saying no. And I don't know, my agent kept saying this isn't a reflection on you as a writer. And I believe it. I just want my dreams to come true. But today I'm gonna go and hang out with a friend. Might go on a walk with another friend later. And at some point today I'm gonna squeeze in my writing. I think I'm probably gonna try and do it when I get back from hanging out with my friend. Yeah, but yeah, trying to just go easy on myself and also not get too sidetracked, because you know you have to be in the moment, you have to feel it, but I also just need to keep writing because it's what I love.